Hello YouTube, this is Nite Misfortune bringing you yet another replay of the Supreme Commander 2 game. This is of course replay of the week. I am happy to bring you this match between Rainbows and LilRoh from the last week of January. Before we get started, just a couple of announcements I suppose. The first one is there's a 10-year anniversary tournament happening at the end of February. If you are a current player, an old player, or any player in between, please go ahead and sign up on that. It doesn't matter if you're a noob, a pro, anything, just please show your support for the game. Sign up. We really want a large turnout for this tournament, and there is a cash prize involved too. And even if you're not as good as some of these players, then it is a great learning experience, and just come out and have fun with us on the day of the tournament. The second announcement is I haven't really been doing a great job, but one of the hosts for the tournament is Steel Speaks. Go ahead and check out his channel. The link will be down below in the description. I haven't been doing a great job announcing him, but I figured that most of you guys are from his channel anyway, or are familiar with him, so I apologize, Steel, for that. But let's go ahead and get to this match. So this was believe a round 4 match. No, it wasn't a round 4, maybe a round 5 match. Between, of course, LilRoh and Rainbows. We have our map, Emerald Crater. Now, Emerald Crater from last week, as you recall, fairly equally picked and banned. Very interesting map that we see Cybern getting picked a lot. Of course, I casted a replay last week, or a couple of weeks ago, in regard to this. Kind of seeing the power of Cybern, especially against UEF, who people usually think that is fairly strong on this map. So we see Cybern having 100% win rate before going into this match. So let us see what our players have in store. I have this game speed paused at 5, game speed 0 paused at 5 seconds. So let's go ahead in 3, 2, 1. So in our bottom corner, if you can call it a corner, we have our red commander spawning in from Brazil, LilRoh, who is keeping her red color, but she has first, I believe this is actually the first time that I'm casting a replay with her as an Aeon commander. She's popping down an air factory, so we shall see. Naturally on this map you really want to lock down that air because of so many expansions that you can't quite easily cover with land. Her opponent in the top, also an Aeon commander, spawning from the United States. We have Rainbows and Unicorns, who by short goes by Rainbows, also starting with 1 air factory, starting to boost out a scout most likely, and doing all the things with the engineers that you should be doing, expanding and actually getting an engineer from the air factory. So she's going to have a good start of mass here. And it looks like she's queuing up some... Oh, wait, that's LilRoh queuing up some exploration patterns. One thing that I'm not sure if I mentioned... I think I'm going to switch the speed to 3. So one thing that I don't know that I mentioned is this replay is coming out a little bit late. I actually recorded this, so I apologize. But I realized at the very end that I recorded no sound or no microphone, so I couldn't use it, and I had to leave for my job. So I was out for a week and had to redo it just now. So today probably going to be 2 replays coming out. So check the other one out. I'm not sure yet what it's going to be, but we shall see. Scout for LilRoh getting sniped by Rainbows' air. And we see 4 engineers out for Rainbows. So that is going to make her expand quite a bit faster than her opponent. However, we see that LilRoh is pushing with her ACU down towards the center, and that is actually very important on this match. Is you do want to not maybe rush to the center, but get there before your opponent with your ACUs so that you can set up a forward base. So this map is usually thought of as a traditional air map, but in reality, if you play it right, towards the end of the game, both players will have forward bases with at least a little bit of land going back and forth. So far, we have 2 air factories for each player, and fairly equal air forces. I would say maybe LilRoh is ahead a little bit, which is interesting because one of her planes got destroyed. But nevertheless, it is fairly equal. She's building a forward radar here and another air factory. Meanwhile, her opponent is ahead on economy, and we do see her pushing in to the center here on the sides. But I'm just worried about the center area here. She is building a new radar. There's an air engagement also occurring. It looks like LilRoh is actually doing very good in this engagement. A lot of planes going down on both sides, and LilRoh is just a little bit ahead. Those 2 planes coming in as reinforcements. Oh, but at the last second, Unknown gets, or sorry, not Unknown, Rainbows gets a very good engagement in the back of some of the planes and manages to take out quite a bit of LilRoh's planes, but now another bad engagement or bad retreat. So very good, nice back and forth with the air there. And Unknown has, Rainbows. Jesus, I always do this against LilRoh. I don't know what it is. And it's like different players too. It doesn't make sense. All right, so Rainbows has built an anti-air factory here to protect her expansion here. And another air factory over here with an anti-air gun here. I would love to see her reclaim some of the mass. I think I see her reclaiming one of them here. The radar getting taken out, which is actually very important on this map. If you cannot see where your opponent's planes are, your planes will not be as effective. Rainbows does have 1 additional air factory on her opponent, so that is going to be very useful. But that engineer is going to get sniped, which is going to significantly slow down Rainbows' expansion on this side of the map. And her planes are just a tiny bit behind the movements of LilRoh, which is the significance of not having a radar for a little bit. She rebuilt it here, but she was in the dark for quite a little bit. And we see LilRoh starting to build that forward land base that I was talking about just a tiny bit ahead. With what do you expect in this situation? Of course, Harvogs with that anti-air upgrade is very, very useful. Plus on this map, Harvogs are very deadly because they are able to run around everywhere and just be a nuisance for your opponent if they don't cover it right. Looks like Rainbows was trying to take out that radar once again, or a radar. I guess there's a couple of radars here, which certainly makes sense. You want to have coverage everywhere. We see actually both players have multiple radars, so it's not always a bad idea to have multiple radars. It certainly makes sense in several situations. Rainbow's having an unfortunate engagement there, deciding to pull out, but that does cause LilRoh to pick up quite a bit of her planes. Those a turd and a half or turd and a quarter of Harvogs is coming out here and starting to be a nuisance on the ground. I believe both players, nope, only Rainbows actually has upgrades for shields, so that is going to make her air quite a bit stronger here. And we see that LilRoh's air is actually melting away, but those Harvogs are starting to help out a little bit. But once those we do both get the what are they? Forget what they are, but what they're called. What are they called? Jesus. But it's the defensive property on those planes that defends them from both anti-air and air-to-air fire. So that is a very, very good upgrade to have there in this situation. They're called flares. Brain fart is epic proportions today. More air coming out for LilRoh. These bots are just continuing to be a complete nuisance. There's absolutely no land. It looks like Rainbows was trying to build a land factory, but a little bit too late. I don't know if that was a factor of her losing radar sight here for a bit, where she didn't see these land factories coming out, or it was just a very slow response. But now we actually see her utilizing her air advantage that she gained with the combat back home to start taking out some of these mass extractors, which is absolutely the right thing to do. Let's see if LilRoh has shields on her planes. She does not yet. She's probably pumping them into upgrades on these Harvogs, which we actually do indeed see. These Harvogs do have, I believe they have more than normal health here. It looks like there's maybe 1 star in them. An unfortunate fly through by Rainbow's planes, but that does cause her to get a decent engagement with the planes. However, she decides to start bombing land targets, which causes her planes to become under fire without returning any. And I don't think she's still prioritizing the planes. I think she's trying to go for a snipe here, which LilRoh is absolutely in the best position here to defend against this snipe. And building just an obscene amount of anti-air stations, and even bringing her Harvogs back. Meanwhile, another excursion of Harvogs here in the top is laying absolute waste to Rainbow's main base, and this is going to be very crippling. Very nice split by LilRoh. Absolutely amazing play here, and you can just see the power of reaching the center first on this map, setting up just a couple, land factories. She didn't exactly need 4, and just abusing the power that they have, splitting them very well. You can get a lot of Harvogs out very quickly, and look, they're still alive. They just don't care about this air bombing runs, and they even have shields on them by now. There's a couple of upgrades in them. There's another excursion over here on the left. Rainbow's is trying to rebuild some air factories in the back, but at this point she has 4 mass extractors that are just not going to be able to keep producing those planes, and eventually just the sheer amount of air factories, well, she actually lost one here, is going to cripple Rainbow's. I think that Rainbow's did a wonderful job on this map. Once she got the air advantage, she started bombarding some of these mass extractors. Would have loved to see her finish off some of these core mass extractors. But really what would have been very, very good for her is if she built just a couple of land factories and set them up in a defensive position to defend against these Harvogs. Harvogs are definitely easier to defend against rather than fight, because of just they're not very good health unit wise, but they are of course able to run around their opponent quite easily. We see at the end of the engagement here that Rainbow still wins, even though both players had flares and shields, I believe. And that's going to cause her to get some more mass extractors and a little bit more research. But the problem is here, and looks like Rainbow's was trying to go for a last-ditch effort with some gunships. Unfortunately, now she's using them in a very poor manner. Against Harvogs, these are just the absolute worst units to have in this situation. They're just firing much, much slower than the Harvogs, and they're getting taken out by the anti-air very quickly, and that force of gunships gets melted, and we see Rainbow's control King and acknowledging her defeat. Well played, LilRoh, in this game 1. Absolutely amazing strategy choice. We see her actually playing as a different faction and being very, very good at it too. So very impressed by your match. Let's go ahead and jump into game 2. I will be right back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the game between LilRoh and Rainbow's. This is game 2 on a map that is new to this replay series, Coalition Shipyard. It has been, you can probably see why we haven't seen it much before. It has a 25% pick rate, but a 0% ban rate, which is really not unexpected, because this is a fairly decent map, fairly balanced map, I would even hazard to say. Even though here we see Cybern winning 100% of the matches, I really think we do have a small sample size going into this game to kind of tell what faction has the upper hand. I believe there's been only like 4 games before this one that was played on this map, so it has a very small sample size. We see Cybern being picked 40% of the time and Aeon being picked 60% of the time. This match, I believe, is another Aeon mirror. So let's just jump into this game. I'm paused at 5 seconds, game speed 3. We're gonna play in 3, 2, 1, go. In the bottom, our blue commander down 1 game in this series. We have Rainbow spawning as the blue Aeon commander, and already building 2 air factories, just like, well, last game I think she went for 1 air factory, but here she wants to try and get that air advantage a little bit earlier, which might have helped her last game as well. Meanwhile, her opponent, I was totally wrong. LilRoh is a Cyber in this game, going back, returning to her roots, spawning as the red Cyber commander, our runner-up from the Serpents Open Winter Tournament. We have LilRoh already building 2 land factories. We'll see what she's going to be producing out of those, and moving her commander up towards the front, just like you should on this game. Let's see if Rainbows is going to be doing the same thing. We see, nope, she is still back in her base, so we shall see how that works out. I would say this is very similar to how Emerald Crater works. Of course, Emerald Crater is a much bigger map, but you do want to lock down the center on this map as well, because your opponent, you don't want to give your opponent all of these avenues into your main base and access to all of these expansion points. We see LilRoh doing a very good job with her bots, setting them out ahead, not just as scouting units, but these are going to be quite a bit of harass here. Meanwhile, Rainbows manages to take out this engineer on the left-hand side. I do apologize for that, by the way. I don't know what the heck is going on with me. This engineer is going to fall to the bot fire, and we just see that is a very, very good splitting. Well, as I say that, LilRoh combines her 2 bots into 1 here. Her ECU was queued up to go up here, but for some reason was taking an exorbitantly long way around, and you see just the power of letting your opponent come to the center first and not contesting that area. There's already an anti-air station going down here and a radar, which is gonna start being a very nice setup for a forward base for LilRoh, because she's gonna lock down this whole center area where there are 2 main avenues for Rainbows to come down. But Rainbows is doing a very good job. She recognizes that her PDs are much higher range. Even if LilRoh did have point defenses of her own, they would be able to arrange them. And she's going to actually start to take out all of this expansion here. I believe LilRoh forgot about her energy generators. She only had 1 in the base that she's built, so she was starved from that energy, and she had to build some of those, which was a very ill-placed mistake, because now she gave her opponent some RP as well as some mass from reclaiming, and it has been effectively slowed down a little bit here with her push, because she now has to retreat all the way back. We do see transport coming out. However, it looks like she's going to fill them up with engineers here, which is very hard to utilize against a Cybern player because of that structure detonation. So we'll see if this manages to work out in Rainbows' favor. We do see adapters coming out for LilRoh, which is a very good unit in this situation. However, there's 2 kind of good things going for Rainbows, as that shield manages to come up right at the right second, shielding that radar there. The first of which is these couple of PDs, even though they're kind of mispositioned. But the second is that she actually now has a land factory here with a shield on it, which is very, very useful. However, you just see the power of bots again. Last map it was Harvogs, this time it's Loyalists, of course. But you just see the power of the speed that these bots offer. and their ability to go out and harass. A very nice split on these units, but very nice job from Rainbows targeting the adapters. And look at the split. Marvelous split. Not a single loyalist has gone down yet. I think there's a little bit of a misfire here, and just continuing of great splits here, managing to take out one mass extractor. Probably going to get this one as well, and just a wonderful split. You really got to split as your air as well in this situation. You definitely don't need all of your bombers bombing one bot. That is not how you're supposed to counter this. And very nice composition from LilRoh here, just staying out on the outskirts, so she recognizes that she might have an MML or two more than she can engage with directly with these tanks, but I am totally wrong, because she's deciding to engage here. Those adapters offering quite a bit of cover fire, but those tanks are doing really good work. They just need to be placed a little bit more under the shields here. That PD is also doing massive amounts of damage, and a lot of LilRoh's units are falling down. However, that land factory does go down, probably to that MML fire, which is the reason why you're really putting them there. That PD also goes down. I would have loved to see that PD under both of these shields for double protection here. But Rainbows in the end manages to thwart that attack. And I missed this little excursion. Now, I know what happened here. I actually saw this. So Rainbows dropped her engineers here and started taking them over, but exactly what I predicted would happen. There was some structured detonation that took them out. She did manage to capture one mass extractor, but really quite unfortunate. You see how close she brought these engineers here, and they all died to the structured detonation. Again, Rainbows is doing such a great job utilizing her air advantage here to try and take out some of these mass extractors. At this point, this anti-air station really is only going to slow down your opponent, which, I mean, it is quite nice, but Rainbows has quite a bit of air units that she is not going to be stopped by just one anti-air station. Looks like both players trying to regroup their land units, and Rainbows actually feels a little bit more confident. She now has shields on her units, so that is actually very, very useful. That's probably why she's pushing out with them. And quite a bit of land factories. She now has 1, 2, 3... well, LilRoh has 3 land factories, while she has 5 land factories. Wow, that is actually very, very interesting. And she is beginning to catch up on the land forces. Not a wonderful bombing run, but she does manage to take out those adapter shields, but she doesn't really jump on it with her land forces, so that's a little bit of a missed opportunity. And we see that air starting to sit around, and in this situation you really cannot do this. You have an advantage in air. You really always need to be moving them. You're probably not going to get much done here, so you should be taking out an engineer, an anti-air factory, a mass extractor, really anything. So we really do see Rainbows going up here in the build order here. Oh, I see where the mass for LilRoh has been going. We see 3 research stations here. What has she been using her research for? It looks like her loyalists may have been upgraded once, and we do see jump jets, so that is what she has been researching, and you see them going straight through that rock there, and that is of course very, very useful, because now without teleport and it's going to be hard for Rainbows to catch up to these units, but that air is able to deal with this. However, we're going to see probably Rainbows' base get completely destroyed here with the proper micro from LilRoh. It looks like she's not splitting her units as well as she used to, but she still manages to take out quite a bit of that base. There's a shield coming out on the air factory, and that air is going to lock down those loyalists. She manages to save the rest of her resources there, and really I would love to see these tanks to start being used. I think she has an advantage in that regard. One bombing run and then using those tanks I think will be very, very useful, but she is a little bit afraid of that snipe possibility with the jump jets, which is definitely a smart thing to consider. And we see a nice engagement here. A lot of Brackman fire are connecting with Rainbows' units. Unfortunately, a lot of units going down to Brackman fire. Just the 2 units here and there. Absolute havoc done by those Brackman. And that is why they're such a strong defensive unit, because your opponent has such a difficult time trying to counter them. More Brackman shots connecting in the main center of the main army here. More Brackman shots connecting, and that is just brutal as all the shields go down there in the center of that army, and a land factory gets taken out. More Brackman shots. Good micro from Rainbows there. Correcting her mistake a little bit, but those Brackman shots are just way too many, way too fast. Still connecting with some tanks. Another jump jet, gonna try and go for that snipe attempt. More Brackmans connecting here, and there's a snipe attempt here. However, Rainbows is under some shields. That is going to be in her favor here. There's quite a bit of PDs and some tanks, which is very, very good. But there was a deadly Brackman fire shot here. And unfortunately, Rainbows is going to go down to the snipe. She really didn't micro her ACU to go under more shields here. And LilRoh wins this round 2-0. I was very impressed by LilRoh's game, and really impressed by Rainbows' games in these matches. I think there's just a couple of mistakes. You see just the power of making one mistake in a high-level play in this league. We're just gonna go to the league table here, and you can again see just the quality of the players that we have in this league. Every single one of these players has been showing very interesting games, and we see so many skilled players that it's just so difficult. You have to play so consistently, and one mistake will cause you quite a bit of unfortunate losses. So at the end of this week, we see Alpha Hex retaining his number 1 position. We see just a lot of changes in the center of the table, and really everywhere else, to be honest. Really just the first and the last 2 spots that are set in stone for now. We see LilRoh regaining her 2nd place here, and the most notable, I think, is Unknown and Hope rising through the ranks here a little bit. And just a lot of changes here and there. But that is the end of the round 5. Well, I guess it's just a replay of the week. There were some games for round 5 later on. But I will be doing another match of the week here just to catch up a little bit as promised. So we're going to actually talk about the updated league table as it stands. There was quite a bit of changes in the last 2 weeks, which we'll talk about at the end of the next video. At this time, I want to thank you guys for watching, making it through this video. If you've enjoyed this video, please let me know in the comments down below, and by liking and maybe even sharing this video, subscribing to my channel, and just participating in the community. Again, go and sign up for that 10-year anniversary tournament. Show support for the community, and I again thank you for watching this video. Until next time, YouTube, take care.